We're giving our best bets for Michigan versus Washington in the national championship game. And Jake, last week we gave our picks for both of these games. It was Washington, Texas. We both were right about that. Then we had Michigan, Bama. I was wrong because I took Bama. You took Michigan. So you actually predicted this matchup to a T.
I did. I was very shocked by that Washington, Texas line. I thought it was completely ridiculous that Washington was a dog, let alone a 4-point dog. And they proved me completely right, winning that game. It was a great game. Both those games were really amazing. I can't believe the Washington ending. Like, what an absurd ending if Texas actually came back to win that game. But Washington deserved to win, and I'm really happy that this is the national championship matchup that we ended up with, because these were the best two teams all season.
I think most of us are happy that this is how it finished. And I think it would have been really frustrating to see Texas kind of steal at the end there and watch them have to play Michigan, because we can all agree Washington's probably the more deserving team after all the tough games they won this year. But against the spread so far, you've got Michigan, who's 8-5 on the year, Washington, who is 7-6. But if you look deeper, Michigan, when they're favored by less than 7, is 3-0 against the spread. Washington, when their dogs, are 3-0 straight up on the money line. I've got some thoughts for where I'm going to lean on this one. I'm assuming because you've been on them all year, you're going to be on Washington again. But what's your thought on this matchup since you've got an elite offense versus an elite defense?
Yeah, I've been on Washington all year throughout this BroThrow YouTube channel show, and I'm going to be on Washington again. You said 3-0 against the spread as a dog this year. Kalen DeBoer is 8-1 against the spread as a dog in his career as a head coach. 7-2 straight up as a dog. So in those 9 times he's been an underdog, 7 of them he gets the outright victory. As you said, this is an elite offense on Washington versus an elite defense on Michigan, and that's absolutely going to be the key in this game. And it's really going to come down to the trench play, in my opinion. Washington has had the best offensive line all season long. In the Michigan-Alabama video, I mentioned how Alabama's offensive line had a horrible sack rate, and Michigan absolutely eviscerated them for 6 or 7 sacks. They completely got pressure and without even having to blitz. If they're able to do that against Washington, they completely sets up their defense, they're able to guard 7 in coverage, and it's really going to make life a lot harder for Penix. If Washington's offensive line, however, is able to get the coverage and pressure that they're able to avoid all season, then I think Washington's going to be able to have a field day if Penix has time to throw, because their receiving core is just so good and so deep.
I was looking and it said that Washington gave up 11 sacks the entire year. Obviously, they gave up 0 to Texas, and Texas has a legitimate D-line, not as strong as Michigan, but that's still an NFL-studded defense. And if they were able to do that against Texas, I would think they're going to be able to move the ball on Michigan.
And part of that is because when Michael Penix was at Indiana, he suffered 4 consecutive season-ending injuries because the offensive line was so bad and he kept getting hits, and he does not want to do that. Part of his play style is kind of like Tom Brady, where he avoids getting hit at all costs. That means if the pressure's coming in, he's throwing the ball out. He's trying to get the ball out basically as quickly as possible, still in the route develop if there's time, but he does not want to take hits. It's interesting because I saw him run a lot more in that game against Texas than he has in the last 2 years combined at Washington. They called several, QB design runs and read options. Obviously, part of that is because now that we're in the playoffs, you can take a little bit more of a risk. And, you don't want him to get hits in the regular season because you're saving for the playoffs. Well, here's the playoffs. So I think we're actually going to see more of that in this game, too. I expect to see Penix running a decent amount and be avoiding sacks. So, if you're into props, I think Penix rush yards might be a good prop. But, I think Washington's offense is going to be very solid in this game because I trust their offensive line.
They've played good defenses already. You had Utah, Oregon, and Texas. In those games, they scored 34, 35, 36, and 37, which means this game they need to score 38. But that was a top, 13, 25, and 35 defense they went against. So they've already shown they can play good defense. Obviously, Michigan is a total different level there, the number 1 or 2 D in the nation. How do you feel about Washington running the ball? Do you think that is going to be an option for them, or do you think this is all out air raid and we're going to see some points scored?
Well, we're recording this on Saturday, 2 days before the game, and there's still no announcement as to whether Dylan Johnson, the running back for Washington, will play. He got injured in that very last play for Washington that caused the timeout that gave Texas a chance. And honestly, it looked to be a pretty serious injury. Maybe not, like an ACL tear or something like that, but something to the point where he might miss a game a week later. If he's out, the experience in the Washington backfield goes to basically 0. Their backups have barely played at all this season, and I think they probably will want to avoid giving them the ball. They don't want to risk a guy with little experience fumbling the ball in the national championship game. I think what you'll see is a lot more screen passes and swing passes to try to emulate runs, and I think we'll see Penix probably throw the ball 50-plus times in this game.
Yeah, Utah and Oregon, like I said, had a top 15 and top 25 D, right? But when they played those two teams, they went well over 56.5 each time, or actually against Utah, maybe they went close to over. Either way, it's going over. And I just have a feeling that I've got to lean that direction if they're not going to have their stud running back there who can carry a load. They're going to have to lean on Penix to throw the ball. And if they do get loose on a few plays, then Michigan's going to have to start passing as well, which kind of brings me to Michigan's passing offense. Do you trust J.J. McCarthy to open it up? Washington doesn't have the best defense. They're okay, but they're not what we're talking about when we talk about Big Ten defenses that Michigan's faced.
Absolutely. Part of Washington's bad defensive metrics is because their offense is so good. They score the ball so quickly and at such a furious pace that other teams then are forced to bomb it to keep up. I think Washington's defense is actually a little bit better than people give it credit for and the numbers give credit for. And I think they're not going to have that difficult of a time stopping Michigan's pass offense. The rush offense is another story because Michigan has an incredible run game. And I think their plan is going to be to feed Corum, feed Edwards, and keep the clock running and keep Penix and that high-powered offense on the sideline. Plus, when you can run the ball at a successful rate, you're forcing the defense to put corners and safeties up, and that opens up the play-action pass. And I think that's what Michigan's really going to have to strike in the pass game is in the play-action pass. If they're forced to go into a 5-wide spread coverage, I don't think that if they're going to try to go air raid against Washington, they don't have the dogs for that.
But Washington is 41st in run defense. They're giving up 137 yards a game. I don't think there's going to be any issue for Michigan to run the ball. I just think if they do have to get into catch-up mode and they do start throwing it, we're going to see some more points. That's why I'm kind of leaning the over at 56.5.
This is a tough one to call because I think that Michigan is going to try really, really hard to slow the game down by running it and make the possessions as limited as possible. Michigan has scored about 36 points on the season before the Alabama game. They scored 27 there with the help of overtime. I'm expecting Washington to score 28 points in this game virtually no matter what. So if you think that Michigan is going to be able to compete and contend with that and get 28 themselves, then it's a lock. If you think Washington even more than that, it's a lock. If you think that Michigan's going to get blown out by Washington, it's kind of a stretch. I don't think a blowout's going to happen, so I kind of lean towards the over as well.
I think at best we see Washington win a 3-point game. I don't think that they have the firepower to beat up on Michigan. I think they have the firepower to score, but I don't think this is a 40-point outing for Penix. I'm going to go with the 4.5 because I just think this is a really strong Washington team who's shown multiple times that even through adversity, they can come back and win. They know how to close out games. I think if you're talking about coaching advantage, these two coaching staffs are very similar and they've been consistent all year. Obviously, the offense for Washington is better than the offense for Michigan, so I like that. And I think the total is a really good play for me as well. If you're on BroThrow, by the way, you can take those bets at plus 100 odds. Jake and I make all of our bets on BroThrow, and to sign up for free from any state in the US, you just click the link in the description box below or go to brothrow.com/YouTube. Again, it's plus 100 odds. So if you bet $25, you win $25. You won't find better odds anywhere else. Jake, what are your final thoughts and final picks on this one?
The last time Michael Penix Jr. played Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, the Indiana Hoosiers won that game 38-21. Penix threw the ball 50 times for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. Indiana was up 24-7 at halftime. That game was such a beating that afterwards, Jim Harbaugh said that Indiana had more talent than Michigan has. If you go back to recruiting rankings, Indiana has never had a 5-star in their career. So, I'm not saying that game was the impetus behind this whole shooting scandal behind Michigan, but if you look at the stats after that game, before that game, it's a different story. Michael Penix Jr. knows Michigan. He's played them 4 times already in his career. He knows what Michigan's going to do, and he knows exactly how to beat them. I think that Washington's offense is far too strong. Michigan has a great defense as well, but Washington just has so many weapons, and I think their coaching staff is really elite. Kalen DeBoer is super underrated. This guy's a guru of a coach. He just wins games. He's not super loud and boisterous and out there, but he just gets the job done. Getting 4.5 points in the spot, love that for Washington. Money line, love that for Washington. I like them to win this game. I don't think that Michigan can keep up with them. I'm expecting Washington to score 35 plus in this game. Even on Michigan's vaunted defense, I think they're too much.
All right. Take the money line is what I'm hearing from you. I'm jumping on it at plus 180. I mean, I think a book would offer that at somewhere closer to plus 160. So those are great odds to take advantage of. I'm on the money line. I'm on the spread. I'm on the total. I'm excited to watch this one. Jake, we had a really good season of picks. I think we both ended up positive. Through the bowl season, we absolutely crushed it. So hopefully we can finish strong. Hopefully I can go 3-0, and hopefully you win year 2 as well.
Absolutely. It's been an awesome season. Can't wait for this game. I'll catch you in the next one.
All right. Talk to you soon.